adds to the Quran. Very importantly, the Sunnah specifies the Quran.
Right.
Specifies it, restricts it. So, and this is why I find, I mean, again, I got nothing but love for all my Muslim brothers and sisters. But sometimes people will come and say, Ya akhi, I don't want to deal with hadiths. Don't tell me the Sunnah of the Prophet. Oh, look, I just follow the Quran. I'll be like, oh, really? So do you think, like, let's say I steal this pen from this table.
Yeah.
Quranically, what's the punishment for me? The punishment is I get my hand chopped off, right? I get my hand chopped off for stealing this. According to the Quran alone, I get my hand chopped off.
Yes.
The Sunnah of the Prophet restricts it. So from the Prophet's hadith, we know, for example, that the item has to be above a certain value.
Assalamu alaikum. I hope you're doing well, my friends. I'm just recalling a lecture I attended once in the mosque. And this Maulana was speaking and trying to alert the community about the dangers of people picking up the wrong ideas, and the dangers that poses to the Muslim community. And one of the findings, one of the requests that this Maulana made in the mosque was that, we need to tell our children to read less of these books. They need to stay away from these books. And these books are the source of danger, are the place where all these fringe ideas come in. And I'm just recalling the interesting solution he found to the penetration of wrong ideas into the minds of Muslims. Now, today we have the same problem. We have the Salafists or the Wahhabis or the Atharists or the ancient worshippers or the forefather worshippers, whatever you want to call them. They actually put the fear of death into people for thinking. And they really and honestly believe that if a Muslim starts using their mind, it will make them murtad. It will turn them against God. It will turn them against Islam. And that is the fear they spread in people's minds. And so what they tell you is, listen, just copy what we're telling you. Copy what the hadith books say. And you will be fine. Don't think. Stop thinking. You just need your mind to become a Muslim. Right? We will use intellectual arguments for you to come from Christianity or atheism to Islam. But once you're in Islam, you need to park all that intellectual activity and just listen to me. Now, if you think that's a logical way of thinking, then good luck to you. You're always going to run to the thinking man for your answers and your solutions. If you're not trained to think, then you're going to have to run to a non-Muslim who thinks. And so I just can't see the logic in it. But that's not the point of this video. I just wanted to do a reaction on an interview that happened on a podcast called I think it's called The Thinking Muslim. And a prominent Muslim, conservative Muslim, is a guy by the name of Jonathan Brown. And he gave a bit of a defense of why we should be sticking to the ancient narratives, non-Quranic narratives, instead of rather figuring it out for ourselves. So let's just quickly look at his argument, and then we'll have a discussion on that.
Don't tell me the Sunnah of the Prophet. Oh, look, I just follow the Quran. I'll be like, oh, really? So you think, let's say I steal this pen from...
Yeah.
Quranically, what's the punishment for me? The punishment is I get my hand chopped off, right? Right? I get my hand chopped off for stealing this. According to the Quran alone, I get my hand chopped off.
Yes.
The Sunnah of the Prophet restricts it. So from the Prophet's hadith, we know, for example, that the item has to be above a certain value. Below a certain value, you're not going to get your hand chopped off. You're just going to get, you have to return the item. You get yelled at. You get smacked a bunch of times with a paddle. You get put in prison. Whatever the punishments that we've decided on are stuff, right? No, because from the companion, and this is important. I'm going to get into this in a second. The companions of the Prophet, in their application, like by Umar ibn al-Khattab during his caliphate and other companions of the Prophet who were acting as judges in the early Islamic period, We know that they would do this.
Okay, let's just quickly leave it there. Let's go to the verse from the Qur'an that has been cited here. And of course, the verse is in chapter 5, verse 38. And the verse says, وَالسَّارِقُ وَالسَّارِقَةُ فَاقْطَعُوا أَيْدِيَهُمَا جَزَاءً بِمَا كَسَبَا نَكَالًا مِنَ اللَّهِ وَاللَّهُ عَزِيزٌ حَكِيمٌ. As for the thief, male and female, cut off their hands as fitting retribution for their crime, and as an example from God, for God is the majestic one with deep wisdom. So let's just quickly keep that verse in mind. And first of all, let me say that there are actually scholars who explain away the meaning in that verse, right? So they try and explain away the idea of cutting off, amputating the hand. I guess only Allah knows the true meaning, right? But we are here and we're making a best attempt. My own personal understanding in my reading of the verse is that I always seek the literal if the literal makes any sense. If the literal doesn't make sense, then obviously, or if it goes against an established axiom or understanding, then you need to seek some sort of figurative meaning. So yeah, I would go for the literal meaning, right? And I do believe that the robber or the one who steals, I believe that there is a punishment of that nature. But, big but, and that is that there is a level of severity. And here comes the use of the rational mind. Now, when you look at this verse and you start interpreting, if somebody stole 5 cents or your pencil, that he deserves to have his hand cut off, then you don't have a functioning brain, my friend. If you really believe that if somebody steals your 50 cents or your 10 cents pen, that they deserve to be amputated for that, there's some level of insanity with you. Secondly, you're not reading the Qur'an in its totality, because the Qur'an also has verses on mercy. The Qur'an also has verses on being forgiving. Even the death penalty could be converted by the family of the murderer. So there are all sorts of mechanisms by which we do not go for the extreme. And in any case, if somebody steals a pen, who the heck is going to believe that that person needs their hand amputated? Only in a barbaric, crazy society will that be the case. But in any case, the other critique, so I'm saying in response to Dr. Jonathan Brown, to his position, I'm saying that yes, if you assume humans to have zero intellect, then there is the risk of somebody having his hand amputated for stealing a pen. But now, his argument doesn't also hold in all situations. Let me give the main point that I have against, the main critique I have against Dr. Jonathan. And that is that the Sunnah, or the Hadith that he refers to, does not cover all cases or all eventualities. You get people who will steal using 1,000 new ingenious ways. Now, for example, let's say corruption in a country where you actually seduce the politicians, who basically bribe the senators and the public representatives that are elected in order for them to get contracts and to sell to the state. So is that not a form of stealing? Or America goes and invades a country and steals its oil. Is that covered in this eventuality? Or, for example, internet fraud, where a person swindles other people on the internet. Or corruption in business, where you actually jippo the measuring instruments and you give people less than they due. And we found in South Africa once that about half the bread that is sold in supermarkets are under the required or advertised weight. And so when they steal, you see, the theft is 1 cent from each person, but from 20 million people, you steal 1 cent every single day. So theft has become a very fine craft today. Countries like Saudi Arabia, who are trying to implement this verse, they do it in a very dumb way. They actually sentence, or they actually amputate the hands of small petty criminals. So this amputation thing, it needs to be applied by thinking, merciful, rational people. When we are applying Qur'an, when we speak about Qur'an, we speak about a rational reading of the Qur'an. A reading of humans, not a reading of zombies, robots, or mindless people. The Quran is to be read and interpreted by intelligent people. The Hadith doesn't accommodate each and every circumstance or each and every possible case or eventuality. And that is why the best thing is to have the human mind be the instrument, and to also take into account the conditions. If you have conditions where there is hunger, starvation, or there's no hadith that speaks about that. So what I'm saying to you in conclusion is that they really need to come back to incorporating thinking, real thinking, into Islam, and not try to build an Islam that is devoid of any thinking. You cannot run the modern world, a modern society based on it. Alhamdulillah.